Hey guys, so on today's episode, I'm talking about some research I did for my French class. It was inspired by a book we read called Pays sans Chapeau, in which author talks a lot about religion. So I was just interested in seeing how those two, Catholicism and Vaudou, really did throughout the years in Haiti. I was interested in seeing how the history of politics specifically had affected those belief systems. And I assumed that the French would make a real effort to fight for Catholicism and against Vaudou. But really what I found is that the French didn't really do much for Haiti, like once they did win their independence. But between 1630, when they started colonization, to when they won independence in 1804, the French met anyone practicing Vaudou with violent punishment. And the ones who were practicing were the African slaves who they brought over because they found that Vaudou is the thing that really unified them. So basically Vaudou became a source of strength to get through the hardships and the rebellions that were to come. And so after the French really stopped caring about Haiti, it really gave Vaudou a chance to flourish. But that only lasted about 50, 60 years, because then Vatican came in and decided that they'd be willing to recognize Haiti as an independent country, but only if they'd accept their Catholic priests going over and preaching in Haiti, and if they'd agree to work at diminishing the number of Vaudou followers in Haiti. So this just kind of really added to the real mixture between the two religions, because it started really when the slaves were brought over and they were being punished. They began to incorporate a little bit of Catholicism into their belief system. But once the Vatican was sending over his priests, it really helped mix them even further, because you had a lot of just Vaudou followers, but then a lot of people who had clung on to certain Catholic beliefs while the French were there, but then they were left with nothing when the French had to go back. And so this recognition caused other important countries like the United States to recognize Haiti and offer a helping hand. But, really the Americans, they went there and they were just shocked at cultural differences, and then they went on to poorly portray what Vaudou was in Hollywood films, more importantly, as this awful demonic thing. And it really played a role in the redefinition of Vaudou and how Haitian laws would work harder against it. Because after the American occupation, there were a couple of Haitian presidents who issued laws against superstitious practices because it was affecting their reputation as a country. In many cases, they were doubling or tripling the punishments from what it was before. So, obviously the Catholic Church had done a great job of staying relevant amongst the Haitian people. What's surprising is that, Vaudou never went extinct, but it's really because to the people of Haiti, Vaudou is more than just a religion. It's kind of like this innate spirituality felt by most of them, regardless of what main religion they're following. I saw a survey in 2003 said that only 2% of Haitians identified their religion as Vaudou and 55% with Catholicism. But another survey showed, like, if you actually ask them, well, do you practice like Vaudou? 80% of Haitian population said yes. So they might be Catholic, they might be going to church, but they're also practicing Vaudou and participating in these rituals. And even though Vaudou was finally recognized as acceptable in Haiti in 2003, it hasn't made the reputation that they were given disappear. And I'm gonna give a French summary now. So my recherche était sur l'influence des politiques en Haïti et comment ça a influencé la religion dans l'île. Si ce que m'a inspiré, c'était le livre Pays sans Chapeau, parce que dans ce livre, on parle beaucoup de la religion en Haïti, et aussi on peut voir qu'il y avait des événements qui ont affecté le Vaudou, parce que le narrateur, il était en exil d'Haïti pendant 20 ans avant de retourner pour écrire ce livre. Et on voit qu'il était perdu comme un étranger dans son pays. Sa famille, qu'il pensait catholique, sa mère et sa tante, ils pratiquent aussi le Vaudou. Et ça m'étonnait ce mélange entre les deux religions. Je savais que le vaudou était la vieille religion des Haïtiennes, mais l'influence catholique sur leur peuple, ça remonte la colonisation française. Donc, moi, je m'intéresse à l'histoire politique au cours des années en Haïti. Alors, l'histoire d'Haïti a été chaotique et les Français sont ceux qui l'ont rendu difficile pour le vaudou à développer quand les esclaves africains l'ont pratiqué. Ils ont puni et quand les Français ont perdu le contrôle d'Haïti, l'Église, le Vatican a essayé d'assumer la responsabilité. Et c'est à cause de la reconnaissance d'Haïti par l'Église que des autres pays du monde ont reconnu Haïti aussi. Les États-Unis est un exemple, mais malheureusement, la reconnaissance n'était pas nécessairement une bonne chose quand cela signifiait une mauvaise publicité. Les Américains et l'Église ont fini le travail de les Français de donner au vaudou une mauvaise réputation. Et aujourd'hui, les Haïtiennes doivent encore s'occuper malgré que le vaudou soit permis dans le pays. C'est tout. Au revoir.